We'd be like, oh, sorry.
So yesterday we were talking about how to be successful in 220, and we were sharing how God told us about 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 20, where he said, have faith in God and you'll be upheld, and have faith in his prophets and you'll be successful. And that was the secret to being successful in 2020. It's having faith in his prophetic word. When God speaks to you, follow that. One of the things that I don't know if we highlighted well enough, which is so good of having daily videos, is that the Israelites, when they were fighting the battle, they had to go into this basically impossible battle. They couldn't have won just by natural means, and God directed them to send out the worship leaders first. And then as he did that, he said, the battle is not yours, the battle is mine. So God's saying, I'm going to fight this battle. Now, people always talk about the fight of faith, and we're going to get into that in a second. But some people think that when you go out into battle, that it's your fight. But that's not what 2 Chronicles 20:20 says. It says that it's his fight. He's going to fight the battle. But there is something that we need to do. And it says there, just a few verses, I think 6 verses earlier, it says that Israel needed to take their position. And so they could watch what God was going to do. And so we were just discussing that a little earlier. And we were saying, what's faith? What part does faith have to play in it? And a couple of things I've been thinking about for about a year now is people put their faith out for something. They put their faith out for a new car, or they put their faith out for a promotion, or a healing, or a husband. I've never put my faith out for a husband, which is why I've never had a husband. And I think, sometimes that can work, and there's certainly testimonies, and I've got some examples in my life, and I'm sure you've got some examples where that sort of thinking has worked. But I think there's a side to it where you put your faith out for something that you want, and then you get disappointed when it doesn't happen, and then you discredit God. And actually, there's something about faith that isn't fighting the battle, it isn't getting the victory. There's something about faith that takes the position.
Yes.
And that's what we were saying. What are you going to say about that, Bones?
Because we're looking at the Hebrews 6 scripture about faith and patience. And so it's having faith, because it was faith and patience in what God had promised. So it's having faith in his promise, but then having the patience for it to then be fulfilled.
Yeah.
So taking your position in what he said, because he wouldn't say have faith if he didn't have something promised. Otherwise, what's the point of having faith? What's the point of standing in patience? What's the point of waiting for something if it's never going to happen? But God's promised us things.
Yeah, let me take it.
And we'll get it through faith and patience.
So what is faith then? Is faith, you're putting faith out to get something? Is faith taking the position? What's faith?
Well, he's promised. So the faith part is, if God's promised me something, I'm not having faith in hoping that he's promised me, because he's promised it to me. So it's taking a position of belief in God, of trust in God, that he's promised that he's going to make it happen.
So I want a new car.
Yeah.
Is me wanting a new car faith?
Not necessarily.
Why?
Well, God didn't promise you cars.
Didn't he?
He promised you blessing, and that can be...
Jesus got a donkey when he needed
Shame.
it.
For Jesus.
But that's how... But isn't prosperity part of the promise? Isn't God blessing you, making the head, not the tail?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's the blessing.
A new car is not part of the promise?
I believe it is. But just because something's a part of the promise doesn't mean that we're in faith to believe for it. Because God's given us everything. We're blessed. We should be blessed beyond abundance.
Yeah,
but
more than enough.
But that doesn't mean that it's just going to happen. We've got to stand and hold on to that position for it to happen. Otherwise, we can just be, walking through life, and... I think that I agree with you. I don't think you're wrong. We've talked about this a lot. I think faith is 3 things.
I think it's a combination. I think when you simplify faith and you boil it down into belief, like that's the same word. It's effectively the same word. You can say the Hebrew, the Greek word, which is pistis. Yeah, like, okay, well, what does that mean, and how do you actually work that, and how does that apply? I think when you oversimplify it, you miss some of the nuance and some of the color and some of the application, and I think that's where people come unstuck. That's where I've come unstuck. It's certainly because I've had the miracles where people will walk up to me with money, and I've spent my last €2 to get to church, and then someone will walk up to me with the brown envelope, and I just knew that God was going to provide, and so I spent the last bit of money that I had in my pocket. I actually went to the ATM to check if I had any other cash, and I had nothing. But I was so expectant that he was going to do something, I thought I'd just have money arrive in my bank account. But anyway, I went to church, and someone walks up to me with the brown envelope. I didn't even say thank you. I knew what it was. They said, someone has given this to me to give to you. I barely looked at them, took the envelope and put it in my pocket. I just knew God was blessing me. There's been other moments where I've been expecting something to happen, and it hasn't happened. And I think the difference is in what faith is. I think when you define faith as simply just belief and you don't go further into the nuances and the color of that, I think you miss out on why sometimes when you're in faith it doesn't work and sometimes it does work. Samuel, jump, jump, jump. Sorry, we just had to sort out Sammy over there. He demanded some attention. So I think faith is defined in Hebrews 12:2, where it says, looking unto Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the Father. So I think there's three properties there. I think firstly, Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, he had to see something. There was something set before him that he had to encounter. I think faith has to start with revelation. I think the guys, the 7 sons of Sceva, who tried to cast demons out, they were doing it by form, not by revelation. They'd seen someone else do it, and they started to practice this thing, but it wasn't from a place of revelation. So then the demons, they came and said, hey, Paul, we know, Jesus, we know, but who the hell are you? And beat them up and chased them out. So I think you've got to start in revelation with faith. The second component is that there's a response to that revelation. So when God shows you something or tells you something, or for example, gives you the revelation on prosperity and that he wants to bless it and that he loves you, and actually you don't have to be poor and you don't have to be broken, and that's not displaying his glory, but actually by displaying his glory, you display his glory by being fruitful and by being the envy of those who were super blessed in the old covenant. They should be jealous of Christians. And so there's a response to the revelation that you get, and that's what Jesus did. His response was going to the cross. He saw the joy us set before him, and the response to that revelation was, listen, I don't really want to go to the cross, I don't want to go through this, but not my will, your will be done. He saw God's will and responded. And then there's a third component, which is the hardest component of faith, which is we've got revelation, then we've got a response. The most difficult component of faith is rest. And that's where Hebrews 6 comes in. It says, by faith and patience, we inherit the promise. When UPS or FedEx wants to deliver the package to your home, if you have been told it's going to be delivered at 2 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock you don't get it because you think it should arrive on your time schedule, and you leave home, when the delivery driver comes to your door and you're not there, you don't receive the package because you can't sign for it. You have to be in the place that God told you to be. And so often, I think in every case, you have to be in a place of rest. If you're not in a place of rest, then you won't be where God told you to be. And you might have made all of the positional changes, but if you don't have patience, you won't be there for when the package arrives. So I think you've got to be in the place of rest so God can deliver the blessing to you.
Well, think of how he came along, hey? We had the promise. God promised us. We've had the dreams, and it just wasn't happening.
No.
But it was until we got into a place of rest, then it was easy. It was quick.
We literally quit everything. Bonnie quit jobs. I quit responsibility for 2 months. We took a big risk, but from a place of revelation, not a place of rebellion. We weren't just running away because we didn't like what was happening. Actually, we were enjoying a lot of the things that were happening.
Yeah.
But we weren't in a place of rest because it was too much responsibility for us. So we had to dial back pretty much everything and disappear for 2 months. And in that place of rest, it didn't take long to get pregnant.
Yeah.
We also just want to say faith is not a formula. So although I've given you 3 little things, I think the components and their colors, it's not a 3-step program. And if you get the revelation, then you have to do this and you have to do, and then you'll get the result. And if you don't get the result, you can demand a refund. I don't think it works that way. I think often those components can happen instantaneously in your heart. You can just see it, you can believe it, you can receive it all in the same moment. And sometimes you have to be in a place of rest before revelation comes. And sometimes revelation comes so that you can rest. And sometimes the response is rest. So I think to oversimplify things I don't think is helpful, but hopefully there's some sort of understanding there that'll be helpful to navigate. I think the main thing, which is what you were saying before we even started recording, is that when Jesus left, he sent someone else. He sent a counselor. Yeah. And I think that actually is the biggest entry point into faith. Like when you're in the flow, you're following God and you're hearing his voice and he's guiding you. Yeah. That's probably the biggest expression of faith, right?
Yeah, because it's to trust in God, and the Holy Spirit's there to help us and guide us and counsel us, but he's not there to do it for us.
Yeah. We have to respond.
Yeah, we have to respond. But it's faith in him, trust in him.
So, our encouragement for today, if you've made it this far...
Keep faith. Keep your faith.
is stand in faith, figure out faith, let faith figure you out. And if you're not sure what we're talking about, because we're not sure what we're talking about, ask God and he'll help you.
You can tell us
help us out. But if you want to like, share, subscribe, comment down below, that'll be great. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Faith out.
Thumbs up.
Bye. Oh no. That's so bad.
But it's so funny.
Jump, jump, jump. Jump. Go. Jump, 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 jump.